Hey, what's good, everybody? Welcome to the Thought Space with me, Ep04. I'm telling you now, I'm getting the hang of this. I'm getting the hang of this. Um they said the more you do something, the better you become at it. So, um, look, it's all about consistency. And thank you so much for being part of this. We are growing. Um, one subscriber at a time. One conversation at a time. And then I know that a few months from now we'll be looking back and say, man, we really started with humble beginnings, and then we are somewhere where we can be proud of ourselves. But I really want to thank you for sharing the videos, for liking, for subscribing, for talking about it, for the conversation. And I appreciate for people that know me personally, for the phone calls, for the inboxes. I truly, with all my heart, appreciate it. When I do something like this, I understand why TV shows or podcasts or people that do the things that I'm doing, I understand why they have producers. Because I have thousands and thousands of things that I want to talk about, but I can't talk about all of them in like 30-minute programming. So yeah, man, if you love what I do and you think that you can produce this show, I am more than happy to give you the reins, because there's just thousands and thousands. Like, I'll spend days trying to figure out what to talk about, not because I don't have anything to talk about, but because there's just so many things to talk about, and then we have just so many, like so little time, to address all those things. But yeah, as we grow, then we'll have a producer, we'll have people who edit, because I'm telling you, one thing about editing, that's not my strong point. Um, but let's get to the show. I was watching The Breakfast Club, and then they had Tribbett on the show, and they spoke about a lot of things, but there's two things that I wanted to talk to you guys about, which I had addressed this thing before, but then when I heard Ty say something similar to what I had addressed the subject matter before, I thought maybe let's just bring it to this platform and let's just quickly address the issue, and maybe we'll learn something out of it. Maybe we'll look at it in a different way. Maybe you will not agree with it, but no, I think that's it's okay. It's part of the conversation. It's part of the conversation. So I'm just gonna play you a small clip. I'm gonna play a small clip. This is in like literally like 2 minutes um, in the breakfast club, where they are congratulating him for winning the Grammy. Check this out.
Congratulations, he just won a Grammy, 2024 Grammy for Best Gospel Album. So congratulations.
Ooh, thank you,
That's
man.
3 in total.
Yeah, 3 in total, man. I'm so hype about that and excited. I didn't. It wasn't needed, but it's appreciated.
I like that. He said it wasn't needed, but it was appreciated. We're talking about the Grammy. We're talking about the Grammys. And then he says it wasn't needed, but it's appreciated. Let me just take it back a little bit.
I didn't. It wasn't needed, but it's appreciated.
Do you pray for stuff like that?
Nah, I used to.
Okay.
I used to, but I had to get my, the reason why I do what I do, I had to get that in order. I had, 'cause-
Intention.
Yeah, intention, exactly. Last year I was nominated for 2 Grammys, and I just knew I was gonna walk away with at least.
So Charlemagne, the God, he asked him, he's like, do you pray about things like this? And he says, I used to, but I don't pray anymore, because I had to remember why I do what I do. And last year, towards the end of the year, I posted something, and I said, this was on the 27th of November 2023. And I said, the gospel music industry shouldn't have awards. We should have appreciation ceremonies where we celebrate one another instead of competing. These gospel award shows have secular feels in them, camouflaged in amens and hallelujahs. Especially in the gospel space, it has never made sense to me for gospel artists to compete against one another. There's this word I learned. I watched a comedy special, um, Trevor Noah's comedy special, and I'm just gonna put the word right here. I'm gonna put the word right here and go Google what this word means. A lot of gospel artists that participate in these gospel awards. Let's not talk about the Grammys now. Just an award ceremony that is for gospel artists. A lot of them, they have this spirit of Schadenfreude. The spirit of Schadenfreude. It doesn't make sense to me that how do you celebrate when you can see your brother is not, because most of the they pretend, man, they pretend to be happy, like you were hoping there's money. Like, let me tell you something. When you submit your song to be nominated, you pay money for your song. So you submit your song so that it may be recognized and hopefully it will be nominated. They don't just randomly pick songs and then you are also shocked that your song is nominated. No, you pay money for the song to be possibly nominated, and then that money is not returned back. Like, if you don't win the award, they say, oh, you didn't win. They don't do that. They say, okay, like, you can have your money back. Your money is gone. So you spend a lot of money hoping that you win, and on top of that, you go and ask people to vote for you, not to vote for the person that you're competing against. You are asking for people to vote for you. Listen, we have the same spirit of God. We are preaching the same gospel. I don't understand why we're competing. When I heard Ty say, it's appreciated, but I didn't need it. How many of our gospel artists have that mindset? Because it looks like a lot of gospel artists need these awards. They need to be validated. I'm not for gospel awards, and I know I have brothers and sisters who came to me and said, like, hey man, the fact that you don't like, someone said, I thought this was funny. I'm checking that. Someone told me that the reason why I don't like gospel awards is because deep down I know that my music is not good enough to win any award. Someone told me that. It's like, yeah, the reason why you don't like awards is because you know that your music is not good enough for it to win any award. So therefore, you go to discredit and rubbish all award ceremonies. I was like, I thought it was funny. I don't know if that person really meant it, but if they did, it's still funny. And I understand the business side of the gospel music industry. I understand that. But should we lose ourselves? Should we now behave like the world behaves because of business? I understand that when you spend money on a project, you expect returns. So here's my suggestion, okay? Hear me out. Hear me out before you go on and watch something else and you think that I'm speaking nonsense. I said there shouldn't be gospel music awards as they are presented right now. Instead, we should have appreciation ceremonial awards. Let's call them that then. Appreciation awards, where nobody must take out money for their songs to be nominated. Nobody must ask for anyone else for votes against an opponent who is preaching the same gospel that you yourself are preaching. Maybe there's something I'm not getting here. For real, maybe there's something I am not getting here. Because now, when you have spent so many, like people spend thousands and thousands so that they ask people to vote for them. So they go around different radio stations telling people, please vote for me. By virtue of asking people to vote for you, you are also asking people not to vote for the other person. But we are in the same kingdom. We are for the same kingdom. We are preaching the same gospel. How can we now, when it comes to music, we are against one another? The spirit of Schadenfreude. Enjoying or finding pleasure in the misfortunes of others. That is the spirit that a lot of gospel artists have. I don't mind if it's with secular artists. I don't mind, because that is the world of competition. You know, you're trying to see who's the better and whatever. That's why there's beefs in that world. It would be very strange for me if there were beefs in the gospel music industry. What are you beefing about? Are we not in the same family? Are we not for the same thing? Are we not trying to win the same souls? Maybe I'm naive, you know. I released a single. I think it was I forgot the year, but it's not too long ago. I'm just bad with dates and stuff. My very first single, and I got a call from one online radio station, and they asked me to. They told me that they're going to put my song on the top 20 charts. All right, this is my first single, and a friend of mine whose song she had just also released her single. I'm not sure if it was her first single, and so we were in the same chats. So, and then this lady who called me to tell me that my song is going to be listed on the top 20, she said, now we need you to tell your friends, your Facebook followers, your Facebook friends, your Instagram followers, and all the people that you interact on on social media. Ask them to vote for you. Ask them to vote for you so that you may be number one. And this is a gospel music chat thing. I really felt weird, man. I really felt strange because I have a friend of mine who I love her music. Her music is beautiful. Shout out to Helen. I think she would remember this. But it felt so strange to ask people to vote for me. Because I can't say, oh, by the way, you can also vote for Helen. Because I want people to vote for me. I want people not to vote for Helen. I want people to vote for me so that I may have more votes, so that my song may be number one. That was the first and the last time I was part of any competitive competition when it comes to gospel music. Well, someone will say, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's part of the game. This must compete. That's how you get better. The first time I wrote music, I didn't think of any artist. I just wrote what I was inspired to write, and then I just got it out there. Intention was not to be better than anyone. I don't understand. I don't even think that's Christ-like. How do you compete against your own? How do you wish that you win? And by wishing that you win, you are also wishing that your fellow brother who is in the same kingdom, who is for the same kingdom, who is preaching and trying to save the same souls that you're trying to save, you are wishing that they lose. How is that Christ-like? How is that Christ-like? Can't we celebrate each other without competing with one another? I'm talking about in the gospel music industry. Is it impossible to gather, to go to, what is this big place there in Main Lane? Sunbed. And it is gospel artists coming there to celebrate one another, and we gave you an award, and it doesn't have to be one award. You know what's strange? There is Ndozo. I'm talking about last year, in 2023. It was Ndozo Mbambo's album. It was Colin Maluleka's album. It was a couple of people who released beautiful music. Beautiful music. I think, personally, all those people deserve to be recognized, deserve to be celebrated. Why do we have to adopt the worldly system of appreciating one another by turning people against each other? Why don't we celebrate one another by seeing each other, by recognizing one another, and genuinely loving and appreciating each other's work? I feel like we have entrenched ourselves in the system of the world that we don't see anything wrong with that. We absolutely see nothing wrong with that. So when Ty said this, he says, I didn't need it, but I appreciate it. But even if I didn't have it, because he too was also entrenched, and then it took him losing when he was sure that he was going to win against fellow gospel artists, because the Grammys, like, you are only in a gospel category. So you are fighting, you are fighting and competing against Kirk. You are competing against Cissy Winers. You are competing against all these other gospel artists in the same category. They can be one gospel winner, and all these artists, they've contributed beautifully to the kingdom with their music. I don't have a problem with competing with a hip hop guy, with a jazz guy, because people believe whatever they believe, but we cannot compete against each other. Please get me right. If you want to compete and you want to show off your skill, you want to see that your music can compete with the rest of all the genres, by all means. It just doesn't make sense to me for you to compete against me while you and I are for the same kingdom, for the same gospel, for the same souls, but yet we are competing against one another. I don't understand that. if you can see it in a different way, please let me know on the comment section. If there's something I'm not seeing, please let me know on the comment section. Someone said I'm forgetting the business aspect of it. I don't understand how celebrating one another without competing against each other. I don't understand how is that interfering with business. Are people not going to come to that gospel celebration awards show if the artists are not competing against one another? Are they not going to come? Or are they going to come because there is a group of their favorite gospel artists who are there to celebrate one another, and then they pay a fee at the gate? I would come in that kind of show, because I understand that the appreciation, the laughter, the smiles, the hugs, they are not fake. I know they are true because you are genuinely celebrating one another. You are not giving me a fake smile. Deep down in your heart, you are feeling that you are not supposed to win this. I did better work. My music is nicer than yours. You won because you bought the votes. You see now? But we are in the same kingdom. Now there's resentment and jealousy. Doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't at all. If it makes sense to you, I hope you present it to me on the comment section. I really want to know how does that make sense to you. But let's move on to the next thing. He also said something. He also said something. Tribbett did this. He also said something that I really want to touch base on. This is about the role of the church in our community. Listen to what he says. Look, in the show, just go to the Breakfast Club YouTube channel, and then just watch the whole thing. I enjoyed the interview. You know, Ty is very energetic. It's full of life and so forth. But I just, because I can't speak about everything that he spoke about. You know, I can. We don't have time for that. You know. But listen to what he says.
Pastors make the people about the church. We got the church name.
So he says pastors, just to correct that, just to correct that. Not all pastors are like that, right? But it just seems like a whole lot of pastors make the people to be about the church, not the other way around. Check this.
Church and the bumper sticker, the church should be about the people. The church should be about the people, but the church makes the people about the church. So all churches now are a movement, but they're not about the people. They're not about serving and loving the people. So I just kind of pulled that. We're online right now. We're not even in.
So he says that the church is no longer about the people, but pastors have made people to be about the church. Do you understand what that means? The church is supposed to be of service to the people. And I wrote this on Facebook just a few weeks ago. And I said, this was on the 23rd of January this year. And I said, I propose that churches, black churches in particular, on weekdays must operate as free trauma and grief counseling centers, skill centers, AA centers, soup kitchens. These services must be open to all community members. This is when you see that the church is for the people. Let me tell you something. There was a whole debate during the COVID period where the South African Council of Churches went to government to protest and demanding to be recognized as essential. The whole church was going there to fight to be recognized that it too is an essential body. And the government and most people was like, nah, not really. You're not as essential as you claim to be. And then I go back to this. If churches were operating as trauma and grief counseling centers, and this is open for all community members, not just church members. When you are going through grief and you go to, or you don't even go to church, but you can't afford a psychologist, shouldn't church be a place where you find skilled counselors that will help you through the grief? Skill centers. Like what happens on Monday during the day? What happens on Monday until Friday during the day? What happens in those church buildings? We have a high rate of crime in this country. Why don't we use the church hall as self-defense class something where you ask people to come and volunteer their services at the church? Another thing about volunteering, like you don't have to volunteer, you can hire people because most churches are registered as NGOs or NPOs. So the reason for your existence is not for profit. So you can go ask for funding to say that we have established a grief and trauma counseling center in our church, but we want qualified counselors. We as a church don't have the money to do that. Can you fund what we are trying to do? You hire counselors. Now you have created jobs. And then the community can see the impact that you are making within that. It looks like, because for instance, my church is close to 20 kilometers away. If there is a community, most of the people that go to my church are not from the area. Right? And it happens with a lot of us. Many people will skip 100 churches to go to the church that they love. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. But my point is that the people in the community where the church is based, do they have any kind of connection with that church? Or is just the church where so and so goes to? But the church is not contributing to the well-being of the people, because church is supposed to be about the people. I propose, this is probably my ignorance speaking, but I've done enough study and research to tell you that sometimes the reason why black churches in particular are struggling as they are is because They are not solving the problems of the community. They are only trying to solve the problems of their members. It is high time where our eyes open up, our hand of reach, gets longer, where we say we cannot have homeless people within the vicinity of our church. We will open our doors. We will ask for donations for beds, and every homeless people in the area, we will accommodate them. Now that's church for the people. If it happens that another COVID happens, you will not go and ask to be recognized to be essential, because the people that you are helping, the people that you are essential for and to, will stand up and say, if you close down this church, where are we going to sleep? We shouldn't have homeless people sleeping in the streets right next to a church. There's a lady. It's so sad, man. It's so sad. There's a lady that literally was, when I was still staying in Bushbuck Ridge. This lady raised me together with my sisters. And then an unfortunate thing happened. Unfortunate thing happened where her husband died. And she was going to a church that I grew up in. This lady was so overcome with grief and trauma because her husband was murdered. She was overcome by grief and she lost her mind. She lost her mind. She became insane. And I asked, what is the church doing? Yes, prayer is good. Yes, prayer is good. We need people to be cancelled so that while we are praying for God to intervene, someone is able to speak to the mind and the psyche of the person while we are ministering to the spirit of the person. The lady died. And she became mad. It's so sad. And this happened right in the midst of the church. Maybe that's why the secular world will always say that church is not essential. We must fixate our eyes beyond the members that we have. Our young people, and I know this is a huge task. There's someone who said, like, look, the church has a mandate to preach the gospel. Let other people do all other things. And it's like that is far from the truth. The church, when we talk about tithing, some of the tithe was used to feed strangers, widows, orphans. The community was looked after by the church. But right now, it looks like we want people to come to the church so that the people can take care of the church. May God have mercy on us. May God have mercy on us. Let's relook at how we are serving the people, God's people. even if they are not members of our church. Think about it. This is the thought space with me, Tabo Mafuane. Thank you so much for being part of this. Until we meet again, peace.